This video will cover building station and city modules. Building is an important gameplay element for those interested in the two-faction war, deep space exploration, establishing new trade routes, improving available item inventories, recovering resources, placing new storage locations, acquiring contracts in particular locations, and/or setting up new resupply points. In order to build structures, you will first need to install a build constructor, a deploy constructor, or both. Once you have installed one or both constructors as equipment on your ship, you'll be able to build structures using metal ore loaded in your ship's cargo bay and by selecting options in the build console. To access the build console, press the default F2 key or click on the build button in the upper left part of the heads-up display. The build console is a narrow menu, providing a wide field of view ahead of your ship. This allows you to see the general area around the build point indicator, which is placed in the direction your ship is facing. At the top right of the console menu in green text is the build location, using in-sector coordinates and the number of metal ore units required to construct the selected structure. Each structure type, referred to as a module, requires a certain quantity of metal ore to be loaded in your ship's cargo bay before you can construct it. To view the build conditions for a module, simply hold the mouse pointer over its corresponding button in the console menu on the right side. Your ship's current cargo is displayed here, and you can use the scroll bar on the right side or the mouse wheel to scroll through all cargo bays as needed. Below the cargo bay list is the overhead view button, which lets you view the entire available build area from an overhead or 3D perspective. When the overhead view is active, you can select any build point within range by moving the mouse pointer to the desired location within the grid that is displayed. Then simply left-click to lock in the position you want to build at. When a build point is locked, the phrase "build point locked" will appear at the top of the console. Once a build point is locked, you can click on one of the module buttons to begin construction at the point you selected. To unlock the build point, simply right-click anywhere on the overhead view grid, or click on the Unlock Build Point button here. You can then move the build point to a new location as desired. The overhead view mode also provides a 3D panning view mode, which lets you pan around the build area for alignment and precision. To enable the 3D panning mode, simply hold the right mouse button down while moving the mouse around. If you have locked a build point, the lock will remain active so you can quickly gauge the exact placement of the point you select in 3D. The 3D panning view mode also lets you set the Y elevation position of the build point. To do this, set the X and Z positions of the build point first by left-clicking. Then, with the 3D panning view mode active, position the build point indicator at the Y position you want. Then left-click a second time to lock the Y value. To return to the default cockpit view mode, simply click on the Cockpit View button here. Below the Overhead View button is the list of available build modules you can construct. Build modules are considered long-term structures, so they remain in the game's universe. Deployable modules are considered short-term structures and are generally only built for temporary purposes. The build point indicator displayed out ahead of your ship will move in 50 by 50 coordinate unit sections in the direction your ship's nose is pointing. This way, you can gauge where a module will be placed before constructing it. If the module can be built at the current highlighted location, the build point indicator will appear either yellow or green and have the shape of the selected module. Green indicates an ideal build location. If the highlighted location is not compatible for building, it will appear red. Here is a quick overview of each build module type. Power supply modules provide energy to other nearby modules when they are within about 500 coordinate units. Modules that don't have sufficient energy supplied to them will be inactive, and their lights won't be on. Living crew modules provide the living space for the support personnel necessary to operate various parts of a station. As more modules are added to a station, more crew is needed to operate them, and the game will prompt you to build more crew modules as needed to support other modules you build. Production modules help manufacture items in local inventories. They increase the regional econ tech level by about 3% per module for the sectors they are built in. Storage modules help hold inventory items that are constructed, as well as additional missiles for weapon turrets. They also increase the regional econ tech level by about 3% per module for the sectors they are built in. Space Station command modules are the primary trade, supply, ship design, engineering, hangar storage, and contract operations centers. They also increase the regional econ tech level by about 3%, but also offer a broader array of functional operations and benefits, including a longer-range power supply of 1,000 coordinate units and faction control of any cities that may be on the surface of a planet in the same sector. Only one space station command module can be built per sector. A smaller variant, requiring less metal ore, is available for building city docking pads on the surface of planets, but the smaller version doesn't provide all of the same options. Shield modules provide shield array protection for nearby modules within about 500 coordinate units. Weapon turret modules are a defensive system that can protect a small area around a station. When an enemy ship comes within range, weapon turrets can fire both missiles and particle cannons at the target. It's best to place weapon turrets at a distance far enough away from other station structures for clear lines of sight, but not too far away that they can't provide adequate protection. Horizontal and vertical modules are structural pieces that can be used to provide connecting and spacing structures and/or defensive obstacles around other modules. They provide no other functional benefit and are not required as part of a station's design. Deployable structures are temporary structures designed to provide short-term options and benefits. A hangar station lets the player save their progress out in open space without requiring them to be docked at a station or city command module. This lets the player save their progress without the fuel penalty associated with saving in open space by providing the resources needed to engage the ship's cryo function. A hangar station also allows the player to swap their equipment and weapons around between the cargo bay and their ship. A repair station lets a ship repair its hull and subsystem damage quickly and without the need for a repair equipment device, repair beam, or a space station hangar with its required cost for repairs. A sensor station provides a remote way to scan a large region of a sector's space. This can be useful for locating other ships, containers, or certain other miscellaneous objects. They must be placed within plus or minus 50K of a sector's central location. A fuel station can harvest particles from a nearby star or nebula cloud and convert them into fuel for your ship. A shield array can protect a small section of space from weapon fire, which can be helpful when threats are nearby and you're trying to retrieve or mine something. A mining probe can automatically mine material from asteroids and planets, which can allow you to complete other objectives while they work to mine. Once the mining probe reaches capacity, it delivers the material it retrieved into cargo containers near the deployed location where you can later pick them up. A jump caster lets you travel very long distances to a specified point in space up to 1,000 sectors away. The jump caster is linked to your ship's navigation system, so you simply select the destination position you want to travel to in the navigation console first. Then deploy the jump caster in the build console to construct it. Flying through the center of the jump caster will then take you to the selected destination. Deploying operates much like building. Both options use the same grid-based placement system. There are more locations where you can deploy modules since there are fewer restrictions for them. However, mining probes require specific locations for them to be deployed. They must be deployed in an asteroid, cave, or on a planet or moon. Most of the time you can place the build marker under terrain to deploy them. To deploy a mining probe in an asteroid, though, you will need to use the overhead view mode, lock a build point near an asteroid, then click on the mining probe button. When you do this, the placement system will automatically put the mining probe in the asteroid that is closest to the build point you locked. If you are carrying sufficient metal ore to build the highlighted structure, click on the structure's button to begin constructing it. The construction process will take several seconds and involves energy beams that pan back and forth to put the structure together on a molecular level using the metal ore from your cargo bay. Once the build process is finished, the structure will be activated. If the structure is a station module or city building, its lights will come on if a power module is close enough to supply it with energy. Likewise, if a shield module is close enough, the structure will also be protected by shield arrays. City building modules have many of the same design principles as space station modules. They use very similar designs, but include added structures designed for construction on the surface of planet terrain. The modules function much the same way as they do in open space, but their build location system, proximity factors, and certain functional elements do have differences. First, the build location system is based on angles rather than open space coordinates. Angles are used to accommodate the curvature of planet surfaces. City structures you build will be installed onto the terrain surface and will rotate along with the planet. So a city you build won't remain stationary. It will become part of the planet's normal rotation and encounter its day and night cycles, as well as any varying weather conditions that may apply from time to time. City buildings don't have the same kind of optimal build point dependencies as space station modules do. As long as you build them close enough, they'll be connected together for power and shield benefits. Weapon modules are also different for cities than for space stations. While space station weapon modules use a two-turret system to protect in most directions since threats can come from above or below, city weapon modules use an elevated tower with a single turret system on top to primarily protect around and above their locations. Another difference involves the command module. For space station command modules, the structure is very large and requires a high quantity of metal ore to build. The space station is a more enclosed structure with 5 entrances around the center docking area. And as mentioned earlier, only one space station command module can be built in each sector, so their build cap is more limited than for cities. City command modules are smaller and require less metal ore to construct. They are a more open elevated platform design that can be approached from above using just about any angle. Players can build a few of these on each planet, so they aren't as limited in their build cap as space station command modules are. However, they do not have the capacity for storage hangars, so only shipyard, engineering lab, and weapon lab options are available in these modules. City command modules are linked to the faction of a space station command module in the same sector, if one is present. Planetary cities are dependent on support from local resources and ships traveling in the area. Without the support of a linked space station command module for inventory and supplies, they must operate entirely on their own with any resources and support they can find. So by default, any city modules are neutral in their faction affiliation until linked with a space station command module in the same sector. If no space station command module is present in the sector, city command modules will default to an IND for Independent Faction ID, which designates a neutral affiliation. Such neutral cities will allow any ship to dock with them and conduct business. Once a space station command module is constructed in a sector, then any local cities in the same sector will align their faction affiliation with the stations. This way, you can take over existing cities in a sector by destroying a linked space station command module, then building one of your own for your faction in the same sector. Space station command and power modules will generally display green build point indicators, even if no other modules are nearby, since they don't really have dependencies with other modules as they carry their own power supplies and internal operational capabilities. Other modules often perform best when built closer together, so their indicators will generally display yellow in open space until they are near a connecting point with another module. You can still build these modules in open space, but may want to connect them together for optimal space management around shield and power modules. By building closer together, you can fit more modules in range of power and shield modules, resulting in a more efficient and less vulnerable design. As long as the build point indicators display yellow or green, you can construct a module at that location, and the game gives you the freedom to design your module layouts as you might prefer. If the build point is obstructed or unavailable due to incompatible environmental factors, the build point indicator will display red, and you won't be able to build there. Module totals for analysis are available in the Inventory News Information screen. You can use this option to evaluate how many modules are in the current sector, and what type, so you can determine what kind of effect they have on local econ tech conditions and possible build options. Build modules can only be destroyed by weapon fire, although they can be scuttled during construction with an option on the HUD that appears when the build console is closed. Deploy modules can quickly be destroyed after construction by flying close to them and clicking on the option that appears in the HUD to scuttle them. Deploy modules can also be destroyed by abandoning them and leaving the sector. Stations and cities aren't built for personal profit in the game. They aren't convenience stores from which the builder will be paid. Instead, they function more as forts for the faction they are affiliated with, providing new trade avenues, resource supply centers, ship design facilities, storage hangars, and defensive outposts. And they are independently operated by onboard crew with resources and supplies provided by allied ships in the area. They are designed to benefit the faction that builds them by bringing in reinforcements and resources to help expand territory control in the overall war effort. So consider them a primary resource for expanding your faction's control, as well as expanding trade routes and providing new docking points in uncharted space for exploration. That concludes this video. For more information, review the instructions included with the game and visit Evochron.com.